They said the ceiling was empty, just wood, wires, and silence. But at night, something crawled where nothing should live. Hands pressed downward. Voices whispered my name. In this apartment, the fear isn't around you. It's waiting above you. When I moved into 5B, the landlord made one thing very clear. 5C is empty, he said, and it's staying empty. I laughed, thinking he meant renovations or legal trouble. But his face stayed stiff. He handed me the keys and walked away before I could ask anything else. 5C shared a wall with my bedroom. The first night was quiet, peaceful. I slept better than I had in months. The second night, I heard coughing. Soft at first, dry, persistent. It came from the other side of my bedroom wall. I sat up in bed, confused. Maybe someone had moved in and the landlord hadn't updated me. The coughing continued for nearly an hour before stopping abruptly, like a radio being switched off. The next morning, I checked the hallway. 5C's door was sealed with a thick metal bar screwed into the frame. Dust coated the handle. A faded notice hung crookedly. Unit closed. No way someone was inside. That night, the coughing returned. Closer. It sounded like the person was pressed right against the wall, lungs tearing themselves apart. I slammed my fist against the plaster. "Hey, you okay?" I shouted. The coughing stopped. Silence stretched for several seconds. Then a voice whispered back, "Can I borrow your mirror?" I froze. My bedroom mirror hung across from the bed. As I stared at it, my reflection didn't move. I blinked. My reflection smiled. Slowly, I stumbled backward, knocking over my lamp. When I looked again, the mirror showed only me, wide-eyed, shaking. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I confronted the landlord. His face turned gray when I mentioned the voice. "You're hearing pipes," he said. "Pipes don't ask to borrow mirrors." I snapped. He grabbed my arm, fingers digging in. "Don't talk to that apartment. Don't knock, don't listen, and never answer it." He let go and walked away. I should have moved out right then. Instead, curiosity dug its claws in. That night, I pressed my ear to the wall. The coughing started again, wet and desperate. "Please," the voice rasped. "I can't see myself anymore." My mirror rattled on its hook. Hairline cracks spread across the glass. And in those cracks, I saw another room. A bedroom identical to mine, but rotting. Mold crawled up the walls. The bed sagged under a dark stain. And sitting on the edge of it was a figure, thin, bent, watching me through the mirror. I screamed and tore the mirror off the wall. It shattered on the floor, but the reflection didn't disappear. Each shard still showed the other room. The figure stood and began walking toward me. I threw the shards into a trash bag and ran them outside. My hands bled, but I didn't feel it. I didn't stop shaking until sunrise. That afternoon, I researched the building. Apartment 5C had belonged to a woman named Lorna. She'd lived alone. Neighbors reported coughing for months, but no one checked on her. When management finally entered, they found her dead in front of a mirror. She had been dead for weeks. Her body had collapsed facing her reflection. They sealed the apartment, but they never removed the mirror. That night, I covered every reflective surface in my apartment: phone screen, microwave door, even the TV. I sat in darkness, breathing slowly, waiting. At midnight, something knocked, not on the wall, on my bedroom door. 3 soft taps. I opened it. The hallway was empty, but 5C's door was open. The metal bar lay twisted on the floor like it had been ripped off. A cold draft spilled from inside. I should have run. Instead, I stepped closer. The apartment smelled like old hospitals and wet dust. My footsteps echoed. At the end of the hall stood a mirror taller than me, its surface cloudy and black. A silhouette moved inside it. Coughing echoed around me. "Thank you," the voice whispered. The mirror brightened. I saw my bedroom, my apartment, and inside it me, sitting on my bed, coughing. I turned to run, but the hallway behind me was gone. Only the mirror remained. The version of me inside looked up slowly. Our eyes met, and he smiled. My lungs tightened. A dry cough tore from my throat. The mirror rippled like water. Hands reached out. They grabbed my shoulders and pulled. I fell forward and landed on my bedroom floor. But something was wrong. The air tasted stale. The walls were darker. Mold crept along the corners. I ran to the door. It wouldn't open. I pounded and screamed until my voice broke. From the other side of the wall, I heard movement. Footsteps. A new tenant. I pressed my mouth to the plaster and coughed. "Hey," I whispered. Silence. Then I asked the only thing that mattered. "Can I borrow your mirror?" And on the other side, someone screamed. The first time I heard the crawling, I thought it was inside my head. It started as a soft scratching above my bed, like fingernails brushing gently across wood. I held my breath and listened. The sound moved slowly from one end of the ceiling to the other, deliberate and heavy, as if something was dragging itself across the beams. I told myself it was rats. Old building, thin walls, normal explanation. But rats don't stop directly above your face and breathe. The air above me thickened. I could feel it warm and damp pressing down through the ceiling. My chest tightened. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. Then it crawled away. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, I called maintenance. The man who arrived looked bored before I even opened my mouth. Probably animals, he said, already turning to leave. It's not animals, I insisted. It sounds big. He sighed and followed me inside. I pointed to the ceiling. As if on cue, the scratching returned, slow, heavy, moving in circles. The maintenance man froze. We both stood there listening. His bored expression melted into something pale and tight. "That's he," whispered. Then he shook his head quickly. "I'll come back with tools." He left. He didn't come back. That night, the crawling got louder. It wasn't just above my bedroom anymore. It moved through the entire apartment, pacing from room to room. Every step creaked the ceiling like it might split open. Dust sprinkled down onto my furniture. At 2:11 a.m., it stopped, directly above my bed. Something pressed downward. The plaster bulged. A shape formed in the ceiling, 5 long impressions, like fingers pushing from the other side. They flexed slowly, testing the barrier. I scrambled out of bed. The fingers dragged themselves across the ceiling, following me. I slept in my car. The next day, I called the landlord. He arrived with 2 maintenance workers and a ladder. I stood outside while they cut into the ceiling. The first scream came from inside my apartment. The workers burst out seconds later, faces white. One of them was gagging. The landlord stepped in after them. He came back out shaking. "There are marks," he said quietly. "What kind of marks?" He didn't answer. He just handed me his phone. He'd taken a picture. The inside of my ceiling was covered in handprints. Hundreds of them, layered over each other like something had been trapped up there for years, pressing its hands downward over and over. The prints were deep, stained dark, and all of them faced the same direction, toward my apartment. "We're sealing it," the landlord said. "Tonight." They patched the hole and left without another word. That night, the crawling returned, louder, angrier. The new plaster cracked within minutes. The ceiling trembled like it was being pounded from above. Then came the voices, whispers at first, overlapping murmurs that made no sense. Slowly, they sharpened into words. "Let us down. Open it. We fell." I covered my ears, but the voices were inside my head now. The ceiling split open. A hand punched through, gray, thin, fingers bending raw. Then another, and another. Hands burst through the plaster like weeds tearing through soil. They clawed at the air, reaching, desperate. The ceiling sagged under their weight, cracking wider. I ran for the door. The hallway outside was silent, normal, bright lights, clean carpet. I turned back. My apartment door was gone. In its place stood a ceiling, covered in handprints. I was upside down. No, the building was. I was standing on what used to be the ceiling, staring down into a dark space filled with crawling shapes. The hands that had broken through were attached to bodies, thin, twisted figures stacked on top of each other, climbing endlessly. Their faces tilted toward me. Every one of them had my face. They smiled. "You live above us now," they whispered. Hands grabbed my ankles and pulled. I fell into them. The impact knocked the air from my lungs. Bodies pressed around me, cold and damp. They crawled over each other in slow, endless motion, whispering in my voice. I fought upward, clawing toward a faint square of light. My apartment. I burst through the ceiling and landed on my bed. Everything was normal. The hole was gone, the plaster smooth. Morning sunlight streamed through the window. I laughed. I cried. I told myself it had been a nightmare. Then I looked up. A single handprint sat in the center of the ceiling. Fresh, dark, facing down. All day, more appeared, one by one. By nightfall, the ceiling was full again. The crawling started, and this time, I understood. No one lives in my ceiling. They live above it, and they're running out of space. If you want, I can.